Eat it. Oxygen. While we
Don't forget to follow Grit Daily News as well as me, your host, Loralyn Mears, everywhere on social media. And how about throwing 4 or 5 stars our way if you're listening to Apple or Spotify? Subscribe to our show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Grit Files hosted by Grit Daily News. I'm your host, Loralyn Mears, and today we've got Jim Barrood. Now, another Jersey person. I know you're probably thinking, oh my goodness, what's up with the Jersey people? Well, as a Jersey girl myself, I love talking to Jersey people. Plus, I really enjoy talking to Jim because he is a trend spotter. He is on the edge and has his hand on the pulse of everything that's new and up and coming. He's plugged into the ecosystem here. He's counseling and consulting with entrepreneurs and government folks saying, this is what's going on. This is what we're doing. This is what we're finding. How are we building it? And he guides people on innovation. So with that, Jim, let me not steal your thunder anymore. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Loralyn.
Well, talk to us a little bit about what you're seeing. You're a trend spotter. What's going on? What's out there beyond the walls of Jersey?
Sure. Well, there's 2 things beyond the walls of Jersey. One is, everything's digital, right? So place doesn't matter anymore, right? People can run their businesses from anywhere, and that's a great sort of opportunity. So people are traveling and living for a month here, a month there, and, or 6 months. And so that it sort of liberates folks, right? And it also allows them to attract talent from around the world. So that's a really great thing for entrepreneurs. The other great thing about, this digital sort of era we're in now is that money can flow from anywhere around the world, right? Formerly, investors who want to be near the entrepreneurs they invested in. Now they're so used to Zoom and so used to doing things virtually that if you have a great idea, you have a great team, then you can get money much more easily from anywhere around the planet. So those are sort of 2 trends related to everything going digital, and particularly with the startup ecosystem going digital that I'm really excited about. So that's interesting. The other thing that is sort of on my mind is the emergence of psychedelics. This is a nascent industry which is really starting to surge, sort of on the back of the medicinal cannabis industry, right? How that has become regulated. And now psychedelics is probably 1 to 3 years away, but that is, it's got a lot of promise. Again, the benefits to folks who have depression or PTSD, or potentially even other ailments is really, really very exciting and attractive.
Well, let's talk about that and dig into it, because our audience may not be on the edge of psychedelics. And of course, I get all of my news from, the National Enquirer and other sorts that are talking about these celebrities that are smoking bullfrog and that venom and things. And like Christina Hack from HGTV, the celebrity designer. Talk to us about that and why people are just so excited about this. They go in, they have one experience with it, and they come out and say, hey, my PTSD is over, my anxiety is all gone. What's the magic behind this?
Well, it's I don't know if it's magic. I mean, some of it's magical, but it's really the sort of the compounds, right, in some of these psychedelics. So there's the plant-based medicine, which again is one part of it. That's where for thousands of years, ancient tribes have been using plant-based sort of juice. Could be bullfrog or toad venom or things like that, to sort of create to help with ailments. Number one, some of these things were discovered because they wanted to help cure a flu that was killing off the tribe or other things like that. And then the other part is sort of to bring people take their minds out of their bodies and sort of create a hallucinogenic experience. So that's sort of how it created. Now there's sort of chemical compounds which companies are developing, which replicate that effect and are a lot, lot more stable and effective. And the beautiful thing and the beautiful promise about psychedelics is that people can take it and they don't have to take it every day. They can maybe take it once a week or once a month or once every few months, and it cures them of, let's just say, the PTSD or the depression. So that's the promise. And there's people who are microdosing as well. Again, helping them, calm their anxiety and helping them with their mental health issues. So we're at this early stage. Again, everything has to go through regulation, but the process has started, and the future is rather bright. So there's that medicinal part, Loralyn, and then there's the recreational side, which is, I think, fun too. And that's what I'm most excited about, is that the recreational side. We benefited from the 60s and 70s. All that creativity that was created from everyone doing these these drugs, right? I mean, even you look at Steve Jobs, right? Some of his biggest inspirations apparently came from, having trips. And so I think if more and more people do it, again, in a safe way, and again, it's very safe anyway, but in a thoughtful way, the prospect of greater creativity and innovation in the future is really bright.
Well, that's just it, getting trippy with it. And it's interesting. I think that there's this convergence of forces, right? Which is generally what's behind any innovation, any new movement, that it's this confluence of things. So one being pandemic, we've all been cooped up. Two, there's just this mass exodus out of corporate America and the globe, apparently. So now that's starting to get the ripple effect there. People going into business on their own, wanting to do their own things, being creative, experiment. And then people looking to ancient Chinese medicines and herbal remedies and things like that have been used for centuries by other cultures, but haven't gone mainstream or been commercialized or protected or like analyzed, approved, regulated, that kind of thing, that we're on that new frontier. So it's really exciting to see all of this coming together.
Absolutely. And again, I think people are much more open to it, right? And as more evidence, and there's so much evidence now of sort of the benefits of alternative types of treatments, right? And there's also this sort of jaded perspective about, normal pharmaceutical medicine, right? The opioid crisis, we all have this sort of really, really troubled reality that, taking drugs every day, the traditional drugs and medicines may not be very helpful. In fact, those side effects that are produced by them can be very harmful. And so people are much more open-minded today, and with the abundance of information out there, they're clearly open to trying new things.
Plus, we have the ability to control for them, right? Purity standards, just standards in general, having regulatory bodies approve them and go through rigorous processes and experimentation to validate their effectiveness, their safety. It gives people, I think, a much greater sense of comfort, where they're like, oh, okay, this isn't just, you met some guy in a corner and said, hey, try this, it'll stop all your anxiety, right? It's different.
Absolutely. And again, there's so much information. There's a number of podcasts out there. There's a number of videos. If you just read Michael Pollan, who's one of the experts in this area, and in eating and in healthy diets in general, he can sort of raise your knowledge level and make you feel, very comfortable with this area that's still developing, but holds so much promise.
Well, let's switch gears a bit and get out of the psychedelics industry, which I'm sure is as fascinating to many people here in our audience. But people want they want to know about you, Jim Barrood, you, the founder of Innovation Plus, and what you're doing. Talk to us about some of the difficulties and challenges that you've had, things that have shaped you in the last few years, and how you've overcome them.
Sure. Well, I think, as you know, I have been working in the innovation entrepreneurship ecosystem for over 20 years now. So I used to run an entrepreneurship center for many years, and then I used to run a tech trade association for another 5 or so years. So I've been around entrepreneurs, I've been around investors, I've been around entrepreneurship support organizations for many years. So that's sort of something that's really embedded in me, right? To be sort of helpful to the community. And so what I've been able to do the past few years, particularly during the pandemic, is really continue helping others And that's really sort of impactful for me, and makes me feel good, right? So I've been able to do that mostly in the New Jersey, New York region, but more and more because everything's digital, as I mentioned before, sort of globally. So if people need to connect with folks or find funding or find partners, I could do that relatively easily. And again, that gives me great satisfaction to help folks be successful. And it really impacts me personally, right? Because that intangible satisfaction of helping others really drives me.
And you've certainly been helpful to me. So I appreciate the support that I've had. And, I may have to hit you up for some more support now with some of the things I'm doing, but we'll get to that later. So explain to us, pretend we're a bunch of 5-year-olds in the audience, what you really do, because you've got such breadth in your body of work, from influence to TED Talks to podcasting to entrepreneurial support to executive and resident support to innovation. I mean, you do a lot of stuff, Jim. Talk to us as 5-year-olds in a nutshell. What do you do?
Sure. So at the very basic level, Loralyn, I help leaders succeed, right? Now that could be advising a startup entrepreneur or a growth company CEO or a corporate innovation leader, trying to sort of innovate, even though their company is very mature. And I also work with universities, right? Helping them, whether it's highlighting the great work that's being done at the university or helping improve their entrepreneurship program, or connecting with corporate partners. So all of those different companies, institutions have leaders, and I help those leaders be more successful.
Got it. Now we need to know, right? Because inquiring minds is what it's all about. This is the Grit Files, after all. What has taken you out at the knees, just absolutely thrown you for a loop, and you went like, what the what?
Well, this pandemic, at first, it really it took a few months, but then I was able to see the opportunities, right, of everything going digital. And I was able to, formally, as you know, Loralyn, I've been convening people in person for over 20 years. So the prospect of not being able to do that was sort of tragic. And it's still tragic, right? On the other hand, being able to pull from my vast network and bring people together in salons and different types of sort of outlets, whether it's podcasts or webinars and things like that, has really helped me help the community. But it's also, again, the intangible sort of satisfaction of helping others more broadly, frankly, because it's all digital, has been very rewarding.
All right. I want to know, what's your kryptonite?
Negative people,
I know. Don't you hate those people that are just like awful all the time? They hate everything. They hate each other. They hate pets. I don't like those people either.
And you know what? The other thing, the pet peeve I have is when people can't squeeze, 15 minutes into their schedule. Like I just got off an email the other day. They couldn't talk for a month, and I was like, you need to be able to squeeze, 15 minutes into your schedule. I mean, I just find that sort of confusing and befuddling, frankly, that people are just so busy that they can't squeeze time. So that's just a pet peeve. It is what it is. People are busy, but it's sometimes frustrating.
It is. Actually, I'm going to put a little bit of a soapbox out there. People are soliciting my time, booking on, Calendly, which is a wonderful and terrifying tool at the same time, because you'll go to bed and think like, oh, great. Okay, I've got a little bit of blank space. And then you wake up and go, 6 hours later, like, what the what? Like, now I've got 14 hours of meetings. Like, how did that happen overnight? Right. But what I'm starting to see, and I didn't really start to see it until February, but even people who are putting themselves on my calendar, they want to meet with me, they're no show. I mean, I'm missing 6-8 meetings a week, which is a lot out of, I guess 40 to 50 I do in a week. It's incredible. Are you starting to see this too, that people are just losing it?
Yes, I think people are just burnt out. and overwhelmed, and a lot of balls are dropped. And, it is just a reality of our situation. And I hope as we come fully out of this pandemic, knock on wood, that will lessen. But, I have to say, I just started using something similar to Calendly called You Can Book Me. And it's been so wonderful. And I'm recommending these services to everyone because, the back and forth is so tedious. And when you can sort of just one click, it's better for everyone. It's just such a time saver. And I'm sorry I didn't do it sooner.
I agree. You don't have to convince me. I'm always on like the cutting edge of tools, bleeding edge usually, but there you go. All right. I am a journalist, I was going to say, but if you were, and you gave us a headline that talked about your life, your accomplishments, your everything, you, Jim Barrood, what does that headline say?
Thoughtfully bringing people together.
I like it. That sounds more like an epitaph, but okay, we'll take it as a headline. All right.
You caught me off guard. I don't know.
Well, that's half the fun with this, right?
Curiosity drives me. I don't know, something like this. Maybe those two things are important.
That's perfect. So now another thing that our audience is going to be looking to do is, because they are very helpful and supportive of our guests, they do things like go online, buy their books, do this and that. How can our audience help you?
Well, I would love for them to connect with me and love for them to sort of engage with me as well. So LinkedIn is probably the best place. And I'll pull those folks into sort of whether it's my webinars or podcasts or salons. That's been one of the sort of the highlights of the pandemic is you just meet people that you would never have met before. And, there's just nuggets, just gems out there that have really sort of inspired me and sort of added to my life, and again, I would never have met them if it wasn't for, me going onto a conference or being connected digitally somehow or on social media.
Oh, I love that. That's what it's all about, right? Is getting the connections. Now, another question our audience is always curious about. You've taken, like I said, a brave new world path of entrepreneurialism and pursued it, or a brave new world path of entrepreneurship. And you've pursued it in a way that is unusual, given this whole multi-body, multifaceted level of your work, from content creation to outreach to networking to all of that. In the last 5 to 10 years, because you've been at this for a while, how do you think you've changed through the experience?
Oh, let's see. I think I've become better, right, at sort of managing things, envisioning things, and executing them, right? And that's really, I guess, one of my skills. I think that's really been sort of heartening just to watch. I can skip steps that other people need to make, right? I think I've been sort of, there's been some, I've seen so much, right? So I'm sort of, sometimes I hate to be jaded, but sometimes I'm more cautious, and that's really good to say, okay, take your time, do some background searches and get some references, before you go full-fledged into some sort of collaboration. So I think that's sort of helped me be a bit more thoughtful about partnerships or collaborations. So I think it's those two things that have sort of, impacted me.
All right, last question. This is our fun one and signature one. So if I headed south on the turnpike to come into your house and took a peek into your closet, and there was a pair of footwear in there, shoes, boots, whatever they are, that personifies who you, Jim Barrood, are, Mr. Innovation, what footwear are we looking at, and why does it embody who you are?
Oh my God.
Too early for this, right?
Yeah, no. I had a black sneaker, leather sneakers with white, big soles. I had those before, and I just bought a new pair. So those sort of, I think, highlight that, I could be formal, but I could be fun and a little sporty, right? So I want to have complete flexibility, and I want to be able to sort of walk in different crowds, right? I want to be empathetic and be able to sort of be curious and understand people's perspectives. And the way to do that is sort of to have a cool looking sneaker shoe that could be that I can wear to a formal event and to a very informal party. And that sort of, I think, represents some of the best qualities that I think I represent.
And I've had more than 100 guests on this show that I've asked that question to, and you are the first to say shoes to allow me to walk amongst the crowd and have the empathy that it takes to be able to connect with them, rise up, rise low. And that's incredibly profound. I'm very excited by the answer. It goes to show you how networking is really at the heart of who you are.
Thank you. Thank you for that comment. That was a tough question.
Oh, I know. It's like, you gotta like throw them out there once in a while. I mean, the idea is not to break people on this show, obviously. It's to shine the spotlight on all the wonderful things that our guests do. But it's kind of a fun question because I'm a shoe horse. I love shoes. And it's a fun way to think about shoes. It gives people cause for pause and go, wait a minute, that's an interesting question.
Super interesting. Really well done.
All right. With that, thank you, Jim Barrood, founder of Innovation Plus, all things innovation, entrepreneurship, and moving well beyond the boundaries of Jersey, driving entrepreneurship into the whole next thing that's trending. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Loralyn.
And how about that fantastic intro by Touch Circle?